This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at the BatmanUniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Hi, my name is Peter Tomasi.
Hi, this is James Hyman IV.
Hi, I'm Dan Jurgens.
Hey, I'm Dustin Wynn.
This is Jim Lehan.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Mark Hamill speaking.
This is Kevin Conroy.
This is Tim Sale.
Hello, everyone. I'm Batman, and you're listening to my podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Batman Universe Comic Podcast, Season 13, Episode 13. And we are actually recording this on July 13th, so it's a whole confluence of 13s.
Oh my goodness.
I'm your host, Ian, and I have with me...
This is Steph. Glad she's not superstitious.
And this is Theo.
We have two great comic reviews of Batman number 110 and Detective Comics number 1039 today, and we also have a bunch of news that just dropped over the weekend, so let's get to it. First up, we have a piece of news that should make several people happy. Batman, the Long Halloween Special is coming in October, and my bet is that we're going to have October solicitations by the end of the week. So, unfortunately not early enough for us to record, but we've got some Batman pieces to announce.
I'm glad it's not another re-release of The Long Halloween, although I'm sure we will get that as well, so they can maybe bundle it or something stupid.
Yes, this is going to be a 48-page prestige format. It's going to be $8, so it's going to be quite pricey. But theoretically, it would be twice as long as a normal comic. So twice as long for twice the price is fair. And of course, Tim Sale's art is almost certainly going to be fantastic. I am not actually the biggest fan of either The Long Halloween or Dark Victory, although I do really like When in Rome, the Catwoman tie-in. But Tim Sale's art in all of them is just jaw-droppingly beautiful. So that's very exciting. What do you guys think about the Long Halloween Special in October?
It makes sense. I didn't know they were both still alive, so that's cool. Whatever. It's fun. I'm just, like I said, I'm just glad they're not just doing a re-release of The Long Halloween like they do every year. It's an actual new book, so hopefully, I don't know what the story will be.
It's just another cash grab, in my opinion. I don't know. I mean, considering, well, at least it's coming out in October when Halloween actually happens instead of July and August when the animated movies part 1 and 2 have been released. So
Halloween in July, don't you know?
We shall see. Might as well. We have Christmas in July every year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The second piece of news is we have a Black Label mini-series announced, and this is Catwoman, Lonely City. This is written and drawn by Cliff Chiang, who has a very similar art style to the master Darwin Cook, who also did some fantastic Catwoman stories like Selina's Big Score, which he wrote and drew as well. Cliff Chiang hasn't done a ton of Batman. He's mostly done the famous Wonder Woman run, and he does Paper Girls, which is an indie comic, and a lot of other stuff. So this is going to be kind of a big Batman thing. But of course, he has drawn a few Batman stories before. This is set 10 years in the future. And the solicitation says, the massacre known as Fool's Night claimed the lives of Batman, the Joker, Nightwing, and Commissioner Gordon, and sent Selina Kyle, the Catwoman, to prison. A decade later, Gotham has grown up. It's put away costumed heroism and villainy as childish things. The new Gotham is cleaner, safer, and a lot less free under the watchful eye of Mayor Harvey Dent and his Bat Cops. It's into this new city that Selina returns, a changed woman, with her mind on that one last big score, the secrets inside the Batcave. She doesn't need the money, she just needs to know who is Orpheus. So the cover looks just gorgeous, and we've got some images of Selena 10 years older with a white streak. And Harvey Dent apparently is mayor as Two-Face, so that's interesting. I'm kind of excited about this. I'm not happy that it's the really wide format. I wish they would just do the normal comic book size, but I guess people like more room for their art or something. It is going to be 4 issues, and it does not give pricing details, so I'm going to guess it's at least $7, possibly $8 an issue. I like the title, Lonely City. I mean, that a lot of Batman stories are about cities, and so Catwoman Lonely City is kind of cool.
If it's $7 or $8, I'm gonna need Steph to say what she just said again.
Oof.
Yeah, I can't see myself. That's a lot.
That might be a wait until the trade thing.
Yeah, or get it digital on Comixology or something. That's a lot.
We'll have to see if it's any good. I don't think I've read much that Cliff Chiang has actually written. I've read several of the things he's drawn.
There's a whole lot of different Catwoman on the cover. I wonder if that's just for artisticness or if he's actually going to tie that all in somehow. Because that's like every version of Catwoman on TV. And like there's the Michelle Pfeiffer, there's your Lee Merriworth or whatever her name is, Merriweather. And then all different generations of Catwoman. So it'll be interesting. Unless that has nothing to do with anything, then that's just a red herring and not cool.
And lastly, there was an announcement today of 2 series. One called Task Force Z, which is written by Matthew Rosenberg. And that's about a bunch of characters who are either dead or undead, including apparently Bane, Jason Todd, who is the Robin who died, is leading this group of undeceased criminals. And Mr. Bloom is back, and that's not super exciting to me. I mean, I liked Jim as Batman, but Bloom I thought was super boring. It does look like it's going to be let's see, this is a 12-issue miniseries? Or what is it?
Is 12 a miniseries?
Well, they call it a maxi series. Okay, so Task Force Z doesn't actually say if it's a maxi series or if it's not.
It says of one of 12. So
well, but that's for DC versus vampires. I don't think. But both of these are going to have Batman connections because Batman's on the cover of DC versus Vampires. I think that's going to be like Deceased because it says in the tradition of Deceased. So I think it's like its own little universe. This isn't mainstream. But I think that Task Force Z is the mainstream universe. So what do you think about these spin-off titles? I'm kind of the same.
It's like how there's how many Pirates of the Caribbean movies now? It's like the first one was cute, second one still cute, third one it's like okay, but this better be the last one, and then it's oh no, and now they don't even want Johnny Depp anymore. Oh, all I'm saying is, it was cool, but you gotta stop. You gotta stop before it's not cool.
I'll take it one step further, and people may hate when I compare it to this, but this is like Fast and Furious.
I liked the most recent Fast and Furious movie. I thought it was fun.
I cannot. Whichever part, I think the last one that I personally watched was whichever number came after Tokyo Drift. That was or maybe no. Whichever one Gal Gadot died is the last one that I watched. So that goes to show how interested I am in that movie. Just like it shows how interested I am in either one of those books. And this is someone who absolutely adored Deceased. I have zero interest in either book right now.
I think part of that is that Rosenberg's stuff for DC doesn't seem to have really caught anyone's real passion. I mean, it's not bad, but it also isn't like really exciting. Like I don't like Tom Taylor, as everyone knows, but I would say that I understand why he has appeal. He's gotten a lot of big projects because his stuff strikes a chord with a lot of readers, and I don't think that Rosenberg's stuff has struck a chord with people. I don't know. Yes. Am I wrong? Are you guys like finally sucked into the grifter story?
I'm still appreciating the grifter.
If you say that you enjoy the grifter story, I am driving to Texas.
Enjoyed's not the word I'd use for the grifter story, but I was very confused at the beginning. But that's not what we're talking about now. No, I mean, it really feels like another cash grab, and they're just banking off of deceased success. And if you forced me at gunpoint to pick one of these up, I would probably do the one with Ollie and Batman on it. The DC versus vampires. Because at least they're not vampires yet.
Well, and it's got Otto Schmidt on art. He's great.
Oh, yeah.
If someone put a gun to my head and say I had to select one, I might just say pull the trigger.
That's a little intense.
If you want to have a cash grab off of DC's, just do another damn DC story. Yeah. There's a way you could do that. I mean, Superman is still in the damn sun. So,
but do you want a DC story by Matt Rosenberg?
No. DC is Tom Taylor and Tom Taylor only.
That's what I thought. So, I was just checking.
While you may have no interest, I will. But again, if you want to continue to grab money off of the success of DC, just do another DC story and call today.
Well, I think that DC's, like Marvel Zombies, really does have a limited appeal in terms of how far you can push the concept before people are not super into seeing their favorite heroes become zombies and ripped apart. I think that it's exciting, and Tom Taylor's done 2 smart stories technically 4 smart stories out of DCeased. I think he probably has room for 1 or 2 more, but I definitely wouldn't want to see like DCeased 4, 5, or 6. I think DCeased 3 is about as far as you should take it.
Yeah, at least 1, because Superman is still in the damn sun.
Yes. Which is why I say 3 seems quite reasonable to me. All right, so let's get started on our reviews.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
We're going to start with Batman number 110, written by James Tynion IV, drawn by Jorge Jimenez, and colored by Tomumore. Flash forward. Batman breaks free of Scarecrow and runs into a field where he sees a giant Scarecrow promising Fear State. As Simon Saint pushes Mayor Nakano to deploy the Magistrate, Batman fights Peacekeeper 01. Miracle Molly and the Unsanity Collective prepare to evacuate as they are blamed for the bombing of City Hall, while Commissioner Montoya raises concerns about Simon Saint, but Mayor Nakano refuses to listen. Oracle calls for backup, raising Nightwing in Bloodhaven. 18 minutes into Batman and Peacekeeper's fight, Batman pressures Sean Mahoney to admit his guilt in the bombing of City Hall, then retreats to Ghostmaker's jet after striking a powerful blow to Peacekeeper's armor. Harley, aboard the Ghost Stream, gives Batman backstory on Peacekeeper 01, but Oracle lets them know that the Magistrate is converging on the Unsanity Collective, and they've been given permission to use lethal force on the unresisting cyborgs. So I only really have one question about this Batman issue, which is, what do you think will be wrapped up from this storyline in the end of the arc? Or do you think it's going to be like their Dark Designs, which basically just led straight into Joker without resolving anything?
Oh, it'll probably just lead into the next without resolving, because we know from Future State that Batman's on the run. We know from the beginning of the comic that somehow he still got captured by Scarecrow, which still hasn't happened. And we know that everything is bad and nothing is good. And that, that the Magistrate and Peacekeeper 1 are in charge. So nothing ultimately good can come of this. So it's just very much, I think it's just going to move into the next thing. Is Ghostmaker's wasn't in Future State, right?
He was not.
He wasn't even mentioned.
He was not.
So maybe something's going to happen to him.
But that doesn't mean anything, because Punchline wasn't mentioned either, and she just showed up in Future State Gotham number 3.
Meh. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with Steph. It's just going to lead into Fear State.
I think that's true, and I guess the follow-up is, well, what do you think? Do you think that is good or bad, or what's your reaction to a 6-issue prologue to a 6-issue event miniseries?
I think something this big is really shortchanged when it just kind of gets wrapped up with a cute little everything's okay bow or whatever Batman has. So I'm fine with it. I like it gets old after too long, Tom King, but these epic stories I think I'm fine with. I like it not just being I like a one and done, but when you put this much love and effort into it, I feel like just wrapping it up is shortchanging the story.
Yeah, I'm not gonna add more than that. Yeah, it's okay. It's much better leading into the next event and not, ending the story cold and starting anew. So I think that's fine.
I would tend to agree. I think that I definitely appreciate it more than I appreciated their Dark Designs, because their Dark Designs was 10 issues long, and it took place over one night. So you had 10 issues on one night, and that kind of frustrated me. Whereas, what is this one called? The Cowardly Lot. So this is going to be a 6-issue arc, and it takes place over multiple days. So it doesn't feel nearly as, just unending. There's something about 10 issues. And I know that there was a bunch of flashbacks and stuff, but it was still all on the same night. And that kind of frustrated me about their Dark Designs. So this feels like it's a more actually building to the event rather than just the bad night before Joker War.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. All right, let's do a quick summary about the Ghostmaker backup. This is written by James Tynion, illustrated by Ricardo Ortiz Lopez, I believe. Ghostmaker battles Madam Midas' army of robots on Devil Skull Island. Meanwhile, Instigator, a man turned into an alligator, like Killer Croc, implores Madam Midas to throw everything she has at Ghostmaker now. Instigator then relates his tale of his first battle with Ghostmaker, of how he invited Ghostmaker to battle and lost. Madam Midas, after some consideration, appears to take Instigator's words to heart and orders her computer to collapse all access tunnels down on Ghostmaker. And my only question, I think I asked this last time, is, does this make you more or less interested in Ghostmaker?
I don't know.
It is okay to say less.
I liked the art. I actually would say for the art alone, I'm kind of glad we had this story. I don't know. I thought
the art is quite nice.
It was a fun story to look at. It's cool to know that Ghostmaker is more than just his armor. I guess he's got stamina. I guess. I don't know. My opinion of him was not altered.
Same here, and that's only because I didn't read the backup. I'm kind of done and over with Ghostmaker, so yes, I just can't get with him. So I'll leave it. I'll leave it at that.
I think Ghostmaker. I like the idea of what Tynion's doing, which to me I think is trying to get people who really like manga and fighting anime and things like that, and there's a fair amount of horror as well. He's trying to blend different genres into this backup story, but even though I am slowly like understanding some of the layers of Ghostmaker, he's not really super original. I mean, he's kind of a composite of a bunch of different characters. He doesn't seem to really have a spark that makes me care about him. I mean, and it's not that I think Tynan can't do this, because I care about Clown Hunter, and I do actually have some connection to Punchline. I wouldn't say I care about Punchline, but I think that she's a very interesting character and symbol. I just don't really have a connection to Ghostmaker that feels fresh to me. It feels like it's a very clever and very energetic synthesis, but it does feel like a synthesis. It doesn't feel like it's got a whole lot new stuff added to it, you know? Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying not to like be super negative, but I do think that this isn't the most engaging of backups, and I'm looking forward to when Clown Hunter gets the backups. Helps that I think it's Brandon Thomas doing the backups, so that'll be exciting.
I will say, just not to end on a total downer note, like Ian was saying, it's not bad. I mean, I know Theo hates it. Theo isn't reading it, but it's readable, and you are learning more about him. It's not like we're getting a whole bunch of Mr. Teeth backups. Yeah. See, I would be peace out. I will catch you guys when that's over. But so it's not.
Cash me
awful.
Outside, Mr. Teeth. I'm so hip. I know memes.
I don't. You're distracting me from.
Sorry, you were making
whatever it is I was saying. It's not some people's awful. It's not. Yeah. So he's okay. He's okay. Is that what we can say about him?
I think that is fair. All right. So we're going to do our rating for Batman number 110, and they're going to do it out of 5 Morse code explosions, because when Batman blows up a building, it's in Morse code. And I thought that was awesome.
I literally laughed out loud. I was like, what just happened?
Because he's Batman.
That was so dumb. That was so dumb. It was so dumb. Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't know. I literally don't know. Because not super much happens, but you also are getting kind of a little bit of backstory, and I keep forgetting that at the beginning of every issue we've got Batman that's captured.
I think we're supposed to, because those are so forgettable. Why are we wasting page count on this?
But I don't know. 3 Morse code explosions. SOS.
Come on, the Morse code explosions are awesome.
I'm also going to give it a 3. One thing that kind of irks me is when you get those endings that's supposed to be climatic, even though you know that it's not, because you know that the next issue everything is going to be all right. So yeah, we have, Miracle Molly and the little girl surrounded by the peacekeepers, and Simon Saint tells them, hey, you can use deadly force, and you're like, okay, we know that they're going to survive because, Molly's going to be in other issues. So I just wish it would have ended better, but I will give it a 3 as well.
I'm also going to give it a 3. Jorge Jimenez, of course, does fantastic work, and I think that James Tynion, even though this story has flaws, I do think that those openings are completely unnecessary, and I agree with Theo. I think the ending is just kind of like, I feel like it could have had a stronger ending. I mean, it's not an ending that's like bad. It's a legitimate conflict that they've worked up to, but it has no real tension. So I'm going to say a 3 out of 5 Morse code explosions. The Morse code explosions are a full 0.5 points for me. Those are awesome. Scott on the website gave it a 4 out of 5. And so that gives us an average score of 3.25 Morse code explosions out of 5. And a mode of 3. Because all 3 of us on the podcast said 3. So Scott, get with the program.
you are a first-time TBU Comics podcast listener, a 13-year veteran, or anything in between, we'd love to hear what you think about this episode or any of the comics we discussed. Send emails to tbu@thebatmanuniverse.net. Join our Discord server linked at thebatmanuniverse.net. Send us a tweet at TBU_comics. Or, if you're a patron, leave us a comment on our Patreon page. We'd also love it if you left us a review on iTunes. We'd love to read your comments on the next episode of the Batman Universe Comics Podcast. Batman may claim he works alone, but we know that he needs the Bat Family. Join the TBU Bat Family and let us know what you think.
Detective Comics number 1039, Story 1, The Neighborhood, the finale, written by Mariko Tamaki with art by Victor Bogdanovich. As Batman, Huntress, and Deb Donovan escape the exploding sewer line, Hugh Val and Mr. Wirt look over the chaos they've created for differing reasons. The Bat family sprung into action while the mayor declares a state of emergency, while he calls for his missing assistant, Vile. Vile is watching the blast from afar, reveling in the chaos, feeding off the violence and the anger as he thinks back to the day that the parasite within him first came together. After he gets into safety, Deb Donovan attacks Batman, revealing that she too has been affected by Hugh Val. Huntress grabs her and subdues her. Batman and Mr. Wirt comes to blow, once again. But this time he isn't alone, as a bunch of penguins, thugs, team up to take out Batman. From the bell tower, Oracle guides members of the family, helping citizens get to safety. She relates to Huntress details about Hugh Val and the parasite that's been infecting the Gothamites. Hospitals have been treating patients with antibiotics. But Oracle also reveals that the parasite appears sensitive to light. She passes along the location of Vile, not far from Huntress's location. Helena sets out in pursuit, finding him delighting in watching the city burn, feeding off the violence of the chaos. As Huntress approaches, he appears to be willing to turn himself in. But right as Helena goes to place cuffs on him, the parasite attacks, grabbing Huntress by the face. Instinctively, Huntress uses a glass shard to stab the attacking Val. And as he falls to the ground, Huntress senses that something is wrong. She's been infected. Batman dispatches of the Penguin's henchmen and traps Mr. Wirt in a pile of cement. As he watches the cement harden, he's suddenly attacked by Huntress. She's fighting the parasite's control, but she continues to shoot crossbow bolts at Batman, who avoids each shot. She jumps on Batman and attempts to stab him, still trying to fight back the parasite's control. It's winning, however, as the knife inches closer and closer to Batman's face. Light, she tells him. Figuring out what she meant, Batman shines a light in her eyes, incapacitating Huntress and defeating Vile. He feeds no more. As the chaos wanes, Manacano gets a report of the events. Mr. Wirt is gone, nowhere to be found, and there's no sign of Hugh Val. Nakano dispatches the police to look for him. Barbara gives a report on Helena and Deb to Batman. They're both in induced comas, but they seem to be improving under the cocktail of drugs being given to them. Barbara asks Batman what his next course of action is. For Batman, the answer is simple. If he's to get a grasp of the case against him, he can't do it on the run from police. He's turning himself in.
So there's a lot to digest. This is technically the finale, but we've got 3 more issues of Detective Comics that are going to be dealing with the fallout of this story, plus an issue of Batman Secret Files focusing on the Huntress. And actually, just to let people know, next episode we're going to be reviewing the next issue of Detective and the Batman Secret Files Huntress, because that's kind of in the same story thread by Mariko Tamaki as well. So that's going to be our additional issue for the month of July next episode. What do you think about this issue as a finale? Does it feel like a finale?
I think it leaves a lot of open ends. Like, Worth kind of is still hanging around. Obviously, Nakano is still hanging around because he's kind of the quote-unquote big bad for Future State, sort of? I don't know. It's again not a wrap up all your loose ends kind of finale, but it definitely opens the door for the next story. Vile is gone, so as far as like the zombie parasite story, that's done, but the relationship of the characters is an ongoing. So I think I do like that. It's not like the Batman and the Huntress in the next story are going to be, it seems like Huntress isn't going to be gone next time. Like, she's going to carry on. So I do like that certain elements are moving on to the next arc, and it's not just a one and done for certain characters.
Yeah, it's the finale from the sense of we're getting out of the neighborhood. We've seen the players, of the elite of Bruce's neighborhood, but we've gotten to the end of that. We've met them. We've seen their particular roles in this story, and even though the overarching story of Batman versus Mr. Wirt and even, Hugh Val may continue, because if everything I'm assuming is going to happen in the Huntress one-shot is based on this attack from the parasite, it makes me wonder whether or not he makes an appearance there as well. So I can see those things continuing, because again, at the end, things are still left open, but we're moving on from the neighborhood, and we're going to be focusing on what's going on with Bruce being in jail, and I'm assuming we'll see Mr. Wirt pop in, coming after the man who he still feels murdered his daughter. But as far as the neighborhood is concerned, we are likely done with that until Bruce is done and gets to go home again.
That's really well said. I think it does feel like a finale in that there's huge action set pieces and there is a villain defeat, but it feels like a villain pause to me. I agree with you. I don't think that Mr. Vile's actually gone. I don't know. This was very intense for sure, but it just didn't feel quite finished or resolved, and that's on purpose. It's just using the word finale for this story felt a little odd to me. What do you think about the use of Batman as a character? I would agree with Theo, and I don't know about Steph, but I think this is the better story between Batman and Detective Comics. But is this the better Batman story? Is he particularly necessary, or does he do really cool Batman things in this story compared to the Batman? Because in this issue of Batman, he, fought someone to a standstill for 18 minutes and then set off explosions in Morse code, which is awesome. How does he compare here? He's able to figure out what his ally tells him, but is he really the central figure, or is he kind of observing? What do you think? Is this a better Batman story?
Well, up until now, it's definitely been a Bruce Wayne story. And it's been Bruce Wayne kind of the detective, and Batman the detective. But I really did feel like Batman was more like a set piece in this one. Because you had Barbara and Huntress kind of being Hunter's being feet on the ground with Vile and Oracle finding things out, and there was so many moving parts and action in this. It was hard for anyone to have any kind of focus, I feel. And then between this story and the backup, a majority of the focus went on Vile, who you kind of hoped had an interesting backstory, but he really didn't. He's just evil and a jerk. And so I feel like too much of the story was taken up with Vile being explained, and I didn't care about what Vile had to say. Worth was definitely more interesting, but he's just an angry white man. So
I think those are solid thoughts. I tend to agree that I think for fans of Batman being like super uber cool, I think that James Tynion is doing a bit more, and I think that's fair. He's writing the Batman book, and this is the Detective Comics book, and it's not quite the same as the Bat Family book that James Tynion was writing at the beginning of Rebirth, but it does have, more of a focus on his supporting characters in their own. They like have little spotlights. They're not like the main show. Batman's still there. Bruce, I would say that Bruce does have a really cool part to play in this story, but it's definitely kind of as part of an ensemble rather than the main solo character. What do you think, Theo? Do you think that as I said, I agree this is the better story than Batman, Detective Comics is. But is it a better Batman story? Is Batman really the shining part of this story?
Well, as I mentioned in my review of the issue that's on the website, the way I look at what Tamaki is doing, and yes, it is still the best Bat book right now. But the way I look at it, and the way I mentioned it in the review was, this is Batman starring Bruce Wayne, and you get a great story that allows this detective work to be done, and it's been done the entire issue. And I think the backup story more than anything, because again, you see a lot of detective work. You see some of Babs, and you see a lot of Babs in these last few issues as the battle ensues. But the backup stories, more than anything, have allowed the rest of, and I'll use the word ensemble, as Ian mentioned, to kind of be at the forefront and still play a role in the overarching story. But it is definitely the better story between the two. And it looks like Tamaki's going to go to that well a second time with having a Batman story starring Bruce Wayne as we get Bruce in prison. And I'm okay with that. You can tell a good Batman story with Bruce Wayne being the focus of the book. And again, it's Detective Comics, and this has been the most detective it's been in quite a while, and this is going back to
probably 10 years since Black Mirror.
Easily 10 years that this has been a bona fide detective book. And it's not just Batman that's being the detective, it's the rest of the family doing it as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really well said answer. All right, let's do a quick summary of the backup.
Story number 2, The Life and Times of Hugh Vile, written and drawn by T-Rex. Hugh Vile sits in an empty Gotham diner, talking to the chef about his life as a kid, growing up with the parasite living inside of him. He discusses how the violence of others feeds them and makes them stronger. But there was a level of violence they wanted to feed off more than anything else. Gotham City, and in particular Batman. But to get to Gotham, they would have to plan things out, be incognito. It would be the Joker War that would bring them back to Gotham. It's time to feed, and Vile starts by attacking the chef.
So, is this story necessary?
There was enough flashbacks to him as a kid with the parasite and enough explanation that we didn't need this at all. And it didn't make me empathetic to him. It didn't help me understand him. He was literally just a jerk who really liked his parasite and liked being powerful. And if the story told us anything, Huntress fought so hard against the parasite, which means that everyone else who was infected could have stood up against it. And everyone, including Vile, seemed to not fight that much. So I think he's just a turd. And I didn't care about having to read a turd's backstory for however many pages it was. And the art was really gross. Like, the art fit the story. It was definitely an appropriate art style for the story. I didn't like it.
Steph read my review without reviewing it. Yeah, on the side of the art, I like the art for this story, and that's exactly what I said in my review. But it reminds me of Ken Rocafort's style of art, and if Ken Rocafort was drawing this issue, it would have fit. But just as I mentioned in that mini arc he did after or during Joker War in Tomasi's run of Detective, it was the wrong type of art. So if it was in these pages, it would have been fine, and in these pages, T-Rex art is fine. The colors look great, but had it been in any other story, I probably would have been turned off. The art is probably the saving grace of this story. There is probably one story that was more unnecessary than this one, and that was the Ridley story, in my opinion. But at least the Ridley story was okay. This was just not needed. It was just one of those situations where it seemed like they needed a backup story to fill the pages of the book, and this is what we got. Or it could have been a situation, as I've been saying since the second Hunter story, that this probably would have been the story from the week before, had it not been for the Robin backups. And, with the Robin backups just knocking everything off a week or two. So who knows? But again, whatever. It wasn't needed. We got enough in the main story to tell us all we need to know about Yuval.
I agree. My co-hosts have said it better than I could. I did not see the point of this story other than, like, this guy wanted to write and draw it, and he did a good job, but it didn't feel necessary at all. All right, let's give Detective Comics number 1039 a rating out of 5 Huntress crossbow bolts.
I don't want to give it too much of a negative, because I think this last couple of weeks you've been asking, like, what do you think Vile is? And I've been thinking Vile's going to be nothing. Vile's going to be chump change. He's just there to have a super villain. I think the story was more about Bruce and Huntress teaming up and gauging the temperature of the city and maybe introducing Worth. I don't think Vile was all that important. So the fact that he turned out to be a jerk and unimportant and uninteresting is unsurprising, because that's what I predicted. So I don't want to dock the story for that. But I really hated the backup.
Yeah, the backup didn't help.
3.5 out of 5, because I like it better than Batman, which is not bad. Batman is great.
Without the backup story, this is easily a 4, and I strongly wanted to give it a 4, but it just, that backup story was just terrible. So it's a 3.5 for me as well. And now, if I can give a rating to the overall arc is a 4. I just think, again, Tamaki's done a great job, and she's done something that doesn't typically happen with Dio. She has him enjoying a brand new character. That usually doesn't happen. Hakuro Duke Thomas.
Wait, which new character are you enjoying?
Oh, I'm definitely digging Mr. Word.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay, I'm giving this a 3 because I'm still stuck on the calling it a finale. I think they should not have done that. And I really didn't like the backup at all, which is a shame because the Huntress backups were great, and the other backups have really expanded Gotham. This just didn't feel like it expanded anything because it was a rehash of what the main story already told us, and that's not what I want from backups. I want backups that give me extra, not the same. So it's a 3 for me. That gives the overall rating a 3.33. Which is about 8 points higher than Batman, and it has a mode of 3.5. That concludes our review section for the episode. Now we're going to get into Greater Gotham. All right, Greater Gotham for this week has a lot of stuff. First one up is the next Batman, Second Son, number 4. This is the finale. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral, or abstain.
Thumbs up, but not way up.
I will give it a neutral, and I give it a neutral as the person who reviewed the book. That ending was just flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving it a neutral, even though I would say that the first 3 issues were thumbs up. I just think this was a marketing error. I think they should have just had Second Son either continuing instead of relaunching it as I Am Batman, or have it called I Am Batman from the beginning. Because it's the same writer, and artists switch all the time, so trying to argue that, it had different artists, that's not a reason to relaunch a title.
I could only hope, and Travel Foreman is doing the art, and I Am Batman as well. But I am hoping that by it being a monthly issue, that the art doesn't have this rushed look. Because if not, I'm going to be quite upset.
Yeah, a lot of digital firsts really do have a problem with that. Okay, Legends of the Dark Knight number 1. We're probably not going to be covering this on an ongoing basis unless my co-hosts really want to. But for the first issue, written and illustrated by the guy who's the artist for The Boys, Derek Robertson, thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral?
Abstain. I forgot to read this one.
Thumbs down. Again, I reviewed this first issue, and the art is great. Story was just not great for me.
I'm going to say a neutral for the same reason. So the next one is Secret Files, The Signal, number 1. This is all about Duke. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral?
Neutral. Because I'm nice.
Yeah, this thumbs down. I don't like player Duke. I don't like Tony Patrick Duke. I only like Brandon Thomas Duke. So let me know when outside is back.
This is a thumbs down. I went into this. I wrote the review for this on the site, and I went in wanting to try and explore ideas, but the more I wrote about this, the more I got really upset. And honestly, if this wasn't releasing on the same day as Urban Legends number 5, you'd probably get quite a lengthy rant about how frustrated I am about this story. But instead, we're going to save that for Urban Legends, so this is just going to be a thumbs down for me. Batman the Detective number 4.
thumbs up? Neutral? Thumbs up, I guess.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I didn't... I mean, there was some cool stuff that happened, I guess. But... I'm falling out of the idea of these people know everyone Batman's ever saved and is systematically killing all of them. I don't know. Starting to bother me. It's like, that's a lot of people. You're bad people.
I actually missed this issue, so I'm going to abstain.
I'm also going to abstain. The Joker, number 5. Flashback issue.
I didn't love it. Neutral? It wasn't bad. It really wasn't bad. It's a well-deserved neutral. I didn't like the art, actually.
Really?
I know you did. I saw you said you'd really liked it. I wasn't a fan of the art, and I don't know. It just shows that oh, George. Wow, that's not his name. That Commissioner Gordon is I don't know. He's obsessed with the Joker. I don't know. That's all I really got out of that story.
Steph and I seems to be in sync for a lot this episode, because it's a neutral for me for pretty much the same reasons. I was just, it wasn't bad. I wasn't crazy about it.
Well, this is obviously a thumbs up for me because I love Franco Francavilla as an artist from Black Mirror, and it's definitely not the best issue of the series so far. But I like just the exploration into Jim's past and his world. I love Jim Gordon, and this series is giving me so much Jim Gordon, and I'm happy. Future State Gotham number 3.
What?
Future State
Did I miss that?
Gotham number 3.
I think I missed that one.
Abstain is acceptable. These are a lot of books.
Well, I feel bad. Was that on your list?
I think I might have added it at the last minute.
Ah, you jerk! No, I totally missed that one. And I think I'm into that series. I'm really liking that series, so I will go back and read it because that is one I want to read.
I'm going to use Steph's phrase and say it's a thumbs up, but not too far up. I still say I would still love to see this book in a pure manga style, going from right to left instead of left to right. I need that to happen to DC.
That would be kind of funny. I couldn't do it because it makes my head hurt, but it's a thumbs up for me too, and partly because the variant cover has a big fat Steph on the front, and that's great. But it's a fun story. Batman Fortnite number 6. This is the ending of this miniseries, although I am dead sure we're going to get a sequel to this because this sold like hotcakes.
They definitely set it up. It was thumbs up, I guess. I mean, they get back. They have feelings. I don't know. It was fine for what it was. It was a thumbs up. It was not meant to be. Not that any of this is high literature, but the Batman Fortnite crossover was never meant to be an Eisner Award-winning series. So for that, I give it a thumbs up.
Thumbs down. And thumbs down because Bruce should have freaking listened. They should have stayed.
Should live
I say
happily
neutral because I just don't care.
You should have listened to Selena. She said, let's not leave.
All right.
And what happened?
And we get to the centerpiece of Greater Gotham, but not for good reasons. Batman Urban Legends number 5. Let's get our ratings out of the way.
So what was in that? That was
we had the
Grifter, which
we had the
was
Red Hood
confusing.
story. We had the Tim Drake story.
Oh, that was cute. That was cute. The Tim Drake, I'm less grossed out by at this point.
Yeah, the Tim Drake story, I would say, improved a little bit. Although I'm still really frustrated that Steph and Tim broke up off panel. That's just rude, DC.
And then they, anyway.
Then we
the
had
Grifter story
Batgirls.
was confusing.
Then we had
Grifter
Batgirls.
was confusing.
And then we had Grifter. And Grifter was basically just buy Wildstorm. I don't understand what's going on with that, but whatever.
Yeah.
let's get our review, our ratings out of the way, and then we're gonna have some.
Overall, I will say neutral, but I would say I'm hanging on for the Jason story. That's my whatever, my hat in the ring, whatever you say. Whatever that saying is. My horse in the race, whatever. Carry on. Proceed with your ranting.
Well, we're going to do ratings first, so no ranting until we've all rated.
Okay. Well, I give it a neutral, but a thumbs up for the Jason story and kind of meh on everything else.
Yeah, that Jason story, I would have no problem with Chip Zdarsky, jumping ship from Marvel and doing a Batman book. I love his depiction of Jason, and I absolutely love the flashback with, Jason, being the troubled kid, actually being a detective and figuring out the riddle to save Batman. And if that was all that was in the book, this would be two thumbs way up. But I am still not crazy about the Tim Drake story. I think that idea is just... I'm still not crazy about the Grifter story. That stories and the Batgirl story can just kick several rocks, and I will hold my rant until Ian does his.
So this issue gets a full-hearted thumbs down for me. The Jason story is well done. The Grifter story is not bad, but the Tim story is weak, and the Batgirl story is... The Batgirl story is deceptive. It is out of character. It is weak. It is disrespectful to the Batgirl's characters and their fans. It
is not a Batgirl story.
And it is... Well, that's why I said it's deceptive. It is not a Batgirl story. This is a story trying to tell us how cool... what's her name? Ryan Wilder is. Now, Ryan Wilder, as we know, is the Batwoman on the Batwoman TV show because the main actress left. So they... even though they recast Batwoman, they decided to go with a different character as the main character. And, that's fine. I have only watched 3 episodes of the show, period, and one of them was purely for Stephanie Brown, and the other was for Luke Fox. So I have a real problem when you take beloved characters and you make them look stupid to make a new character look good. And something I've appreciated... Now, James Tynion used to do this. He did this with Bluebird, and even though I like Bluebird, I do think it was a mistake. He doesn't seem to do it as much anymore. He hasn't done it with Punchline. He hasn't done it with Ghostmaker or Clown Hunter. None of them have really been like, oh, I'm so much cooler. Now, Ghostmaker thinks he's so much cooler than Batman, but we all know better, and James Tynion also knows better. He's not trying to tell us that Ghostmaker is cooler than Batman. He thinks he's very cool, but not cooler than Batman. Marguerite Bennett, who wrote this, and Sweeney Boo. Now, Sweeney Boo, I will say, in favor of the story. Sweeney Boo did a great job with the characters. They look adorable and cool and ready for action. But then Marguerite Bennett wrote the story, and it's all about how Ryan is awesome and Steph and Cass are kind of incompetent. They start out slacking off. Now, I have no problem with a character having a moment of rest and relaxation. I mean, we had a good moment of that in the Shiva story, I think 2 issues ago in Urban Legends, where Steph, Cass, and Duke played mini golf. But that wasn't the start of the story. That was like a side thing that we have happening. This starts the story with them goofing off, and it just doesn't get better for me from there, because Oracle sort of scolds them and tells them to do a mission, and then it turns out the mission isn't against a bad guy, so they don't even save anyone or accomplish anything. They end up looking like punks so that Ryan can look cool. And that's deceptive, because we have been waiting for a Batgirl story for 5 months. We don't even have a Batgirl's story announced. And so we thought this was going to lead into a Batgirl story, and instead it's just Ryan Wilder is awesome. And I will say this. If they put Ryan Wilder in the Batgirl's ongoing series, that either it's going to be Batgirls or Batgirls and the Birds of Prey, I am 100% sure about that. If they put Ryan Wilder on that team, I'm going to be very upset because that means that they're going to be building off of this story, and I want this story to go in the trash. I want people to forget it because it shows Stefan Cass in a very incompetent light, and I think it's extremely disrespectful to people who have been asking for a Batgirl series for since at least 2014. We've been wanting Stefan Cass and Babs to team up and have a story where they really show how the Bat Ladies can really be a great team that has a strong fan base, and inspires people because they love these characters and they have good stories that respect them as competent characters with great skills and strong histories. This shows these characters as either humorless killjoys, like Cassandra Cain here. She's like, oh, I don't like video games because there's no stakes. I'm like, okay, come on. We saw Cassandra playing mini golf. She wouldn't consider a video game that much different from mini golf. So that's out of character already. And inconsistent with this very anthology series. And then it shows Steph as this, like, airhead idiot. And it's just... that's disrespectful to people who like Steph and Cass. And then Oracle comes in and is just kind of scolding instead of being, like, a good leader. And this does not get me excited if Marguerite Bennett is the one writing the Batgirls ongoing. I have no interest in that after this story. I think this story is all the things I said at the beginning. I think it's deceptive, dishonest, badly written, out of character, and
terrible,
disrespectful.
Terrible. I will go one step further. So for me, and I am typically a Sweeney Boo fan, but I was not crazy about the art. I did not like how she drew Cass. Now, to her credit, I have never been a fan of the Big Eye Cass, even in her own Batgirl run. I am more of just complete black no man's land Cass, and so whenever I get these Venom Spider-Man eyes looking at me, it irks me to no end. And I always get perturbed, and since this is a family-friendly podcast, I will use the word perturbed when one of my favorite characters is written out of context. And if anyone have listened to Ian and I talk about our favorite Batgirls, you all know how much of a fan and how big Cassandra Cain is on my list. And when you see a writer just utterly disregard the history and the characterization of one of your favorite characters, it just perturbs me to no end. And I've always considered myself a fan of Marguerite Bennett, but just as I am typically a fan of Vita Ayala, after this experience with her writing Cassandra and Steph, if it is ever announced that she is writing this book, I am more than likely not picking it up. And if it's announced that Ryan will be a part of the team, I am most definitely probably not picking this book up. It's just terrible. And yeah, and Ian used the word disrespectful. It's disrespectful to those characters' history, but it's also disrespectful to the fans of these characters who have followed them for so long. And I am quite disappointed in how this turned out. I could not accept this as an ongoing at all. Period.
Yep. In the immortal words of Theo, this story was trash.
Trash.
All right.
Like 18 trash. As bad as the Grifter story has been, I actually enjoyed the Grifter story.
Yeah, the ending of the Grifter story wasn't bad.
Terrible. Gotta do better, DC. You gotta do better by the fans. You deserve
do.
it.
Come on. I mean, the Batgirl is such a great brand, and they've been running it into the ground for at least 3 years now, and it's so stupid. All right. On more positive notes, we have a great piece of feedback from the professor on Discord.
Sorry to interrupt, Master Bruce. Ringing your phone now.
This needs my attention.
The professor says, I've been thinking about Theo's recent points on the last Batman book regarding the difficulty of seeing Scarecrow as an A-level villain. I mean, as an empirical matter, there's no question Theo is right. No awful pun intended. Because his name's Theo, right? Writers generally have done much to make Scarecrow anything more than a Tier 2 villain, including the Nolan trilogy, where he's basically a minion of Bane and the League of Shadows. But I'm super pleased to see JT really building Scarecrow up, as he thinks he really ought to be more important than Tier 2. And if Penguin shows that Tier 1 villains can move down, Tier 2 villains ought to be able to move up. My reasoning is that there is virtually no origin story for Batman which isn't an pertinent part of Fear narrative. And in TBU, Scarecrow is really the Lord of Fear. This suggests he ought to be pretty important as a villain. BTAS does a better job of highlighting some of this. He is in many sense quite frightening, donning a costume in some sense as elemental and scary as Bats himself. And Jimenez's art shows just how scary he can be. Connecting this to the forthcoming Fear state, it's really nice to see creative centering the idea of fear in Batman and TBU. Just some thoughts.
Really excellent thoughts.
Yeah, and you know what? He's always featured in, like, pictures and stuff of, like, the Rogues Gallery. Like, he's, I don't know. I think he's an honorary Tier 1 sometimes. My favorite episode of The Batman, which the first 3 seasons of that were not good, but the 4th season was really, really good. And my favorite episode is a Scarecrow episode, I think. I think it's Scarecrow. The one with all the zombies. That's a really good episode.
I will only say that, yes, I am Mr. Right to everyone except my ex-wife.
As I said, I think these are really good thoughts. I am getting excited about Fear State. I think it'll be really cool to see what Scarecrow has planned, because he often does just sort of like, oh yes, everyone's gonna be fear gas, fear. Whereas this one, he's really kind of woven a intricate web. So I'm very curious to see what he wants to get out of this. That brings us to the end of our episode. Let me read our quick plug for our support. We've got Patreon, and we have one-time contributions through PayPal. We have a bunch of affiliate links if you want to buy Nerdy Batman or anything else through Amazon, Comixology, Lego, or many other things. We've got a ton of links. And we have our Bat Fan Appreciation Wall, which is our patrons on a certain level or higher who support us from month to month. So let me go ahead and read our supporters. Gerald Green, Joshua Lappenberg Tony, Rob O, Real No Deuces, Tim Garassi, Robert Lewis, Stephanie Mounts, Ian Miller, Donovan Morgan Grant, Stanton's Grave, Donald Townsend, Ed Grouse, Brendan Roberts, Hannah Garr, Captain America, Mary Garrett, Austin Davis, Johnny McCloskey, and Cesar Diaz. Thank you all for supporting us. We really appreciate it. We really enjoy doing this podcast twice a month, and you help us to be able to keep our podcast episodes up so that people can binge through all our episodes. As I said, next episode, we're going to be reviewing Detective Comics 1040 and the Batman Secret Files Huntress, because, as I said, that is continuing by the same creative team as Detective Comics. So don't want any surprises, because sometimes I'm surprised my co-hosts and our listeners about what I'm planning on doing for our reviews. Thanks so much for listening. I've been Ian.
This is Steph.
And this is Theo.
And we'll have you back in the Batcave next episode for more TBU Comics. Actually, you might have to edit that out, because that's not supposed to come out till the 20th.
Oh, no, really?
Yes.
Catwoman?
Yeah.
Wait, no, what Theo said or what I said?
What any of us said. This book isn't going to be out by the time this episode's out.
Uh-oh.
Wait. Let me see.
That's why I couldn't remember, because I hadn't written the review yet. This book's not out yet.
That's right. It doesn't come out until the 20th.
Yep.
Spoilers.
Whoops.
Okay.